Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marty Ross, and this is another Conversations with Marty Ross MD tonight. It's a webinar where we're going to talk about Lyme disease. I'm interested, as usual, to see what you have in store for me. No 2 weeks are the same because you create each of these webinars with your questions. So I look forward to see what you have in store for me. For those of you that are new here, welcome. And there's a couple ways you can participate. If you are new, and those that are coming back know about this already, but one way to participate is actually just listen in on the questions as I read them and see what responses I give. The other way is to actually write a question to me. And the way to do that is at the bottom of the right-hand side of your screen at the bottom is a chat box. You have a couple options there. One is you can click on that question mark that's down there. And that's how I want you to send questions to me from now on. Before you could click on the chat option, I want it to be a question mark option. So I'm requesting that of everyone. It just makes it easier to see them all in that space. So you click on that question mark that you see down there and then write your question to me, okay? And so, yeah, and then I'll get the question and we'll put it up. So during the webinar, I am creating a recording. And tomorrow morning, somewhere probably by 9:30 a.m., you'll get an email from me announcing that recording is ready to be seen and to be reviewed. When during the webinar tonight, you're going to see that I will post your questions that I'm answering on the screen. You'll see them, okay? But in that recorded version, you don't get to see it. So I will read them out loud as well, too, so that if you are listening to the recorded version and those that only follow this in the recorded version will be able to understand what we're talking about, okay? Now, in tomorrow morning's email, there will be a link that you can sign up for the next 2 webinars because this is my first webinar for February, and I've got 2 more planned during the month, and they're back to back. And then we'll take a week off, as I usually do. I usually take 1 week off each month. Tonight, I plan to spend about an hour and a half with you here. We'll see how I hold up. I've had a very long day here in terms of a full patient calendar, so I'm kind of feeling the effects of that. But my anticipation is that I'll be with you here for a whole hour tonight, okay? Tomorrow morning, when you get that email, I'd like to recruit you to help me. I know I'm helping you, but I want you to help me. My goal is to help as many people as I possibly can with Lyme disease. And one way I do that is hosting these webinars. And the more people that participate, the more people I get to help. I want people to recover from this thing. So if you would help me by sending that email out to people you know that are affected by Lyme disease so that they might see what we're doing here and also consider participating in the future too. Okay? All right. And I thank you in advance for doing that if you actually help me with that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take the first question here. All right, so this first question is from Megan. Hi, Marty. I've really been struggling badly with joint pain, and I'm doing my best with antimicrobials to address Lyme and Bartonella. How have you seen your patients respond to the BPC 157 peptide for cartilage repair? On the same note, how have you been seeing your Bartonella patients respond to lumbrokinase? If I started either of these, should I expect to possibly Herx? And 2, have you seen your patients who have Lyme and mitochondrial dysfunction develop long haul COVID after infection at any greater rate than the healthy population? Thank you and bless you. All right. So let me talk about the long haul COVID here first. In terms of long haul COVID, as many of you know, it's people that get COVID and just seem to have persisting symptoms that go on afterwards. And the estimates range. I mean, I've seen estimates ranging up to 30%, maybe even more, of people that have had COVID that have some lingering symptoms that seem to go on, okay? In terms of what do I see about Lyme and this, excuse me just a minute. I'm getting texted by a video call from one of my friends, and it's ringing through to my hearing aids. I had to turn that off there for a minute. Yes, I do have hearing aids, and you can barely see them, but they are there. Anyhow, in terms of long COVID, my sense is that the chances of somebody with Lyme getting long COVID is the same chance as somebody that does not have Lyme and gets long haul COVID. Okay, I am not seeing any increased chance of that. Now that's my observation. I have, my one practice. No one's done studies yet to say that, but that's what my observation is. Okay, all right. So in terms of the BPC 157, so everyone, BPC 157 is a peptide. And so let me first of all talk about peptides, and then I'll talk about BPC 157 specifically. So a peptide is a strand of amino acids. Okay, so amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and a strand of amino acids that is 30 long or less is called a peptide. Anything over 30 is called a protein. Okay, so just definitions there. Okay, all right. Now, peptides are substances that are actually manufactured in our bodies. So this BPC 157, for instance, is manufactured in the stomach lining, and it's used within the intestinal tract to help repair injured intestines. So it might be useful for leaky gut, for instance. Okay, all right. But it has been observed, though, that it actually can help repair other tissue problems as well, too. And so it can also, it's been shown, or it has, I think it's actually been shown to do it too, but it can repair joint injury problems like cartilage, inflammation in the joints, can repair nerve injury. So it can be useful for things like that. It can repair, gut dysfunction and leaky gut syndrome. It can help with that as well too. Other things it does is supports healthy mitochondria function. And it also is useful at balancing out and getting your immune system better balance in terms of immune function as well, to specifically creating better balance between something known as Th1 inflammation and Th2 inflammation. Th1 inflammation is made up of your cells that attack germs and the inflammation cytokines related to them. And then Th2 is made up of your mast cells, your allergy cells, your autoimmune cells, and your B cells that make antibodies. That's all Th2 and cytokines made in that, okay? And the idea is that sometimes in people with chronic Lyme will develop an imbalance where they get too much Th2 relative to Th1. Too much Th2 suppresses Th1 and its ability to attack germs and fight infection. So BPC 157 may create a better balance in that too, okay? All right, so again, I've been using these now since October, where I was at a workshop at the ILADS, the International Lyme Associated Society conference in Florida. I attended a one-day workshop learning how to use these, and so I've been adding them into my practice based on what I learned there, all right? And so I have been using them for people with Lyme, but also people with joint injury, tendon problems, etc. And the reports I'm getting back from my patients are overwhelmingly people are getting improved body pains. And so, for instance, a story that I have is a patient of mine that had seen a number of doctors before me that had long-term IV antibiotics before she ever saw me. We've spent a few years just trying to get persister Lyme taken care of. And frankly, we just reached a logjam. There wasn't really any other antibiotic or herbal antibiotic options I could do for her, and yet she still had this persistent body and joint pain and fatigue. Okay, just persistent. And I've done mitochondria repair. I've done tons of antibiotics with her, herbal antibiotics, persister regimens, etc. I put her on the BPC 157, and I just talked to her a few weeks ago. She's been on it for about 3 months now. And for the first time in over 10 years, she has no body pain. Okay, none. Now, I'm giving you a testimony of one, okay, so I have to caution you there. But she's not the only one I'm seeing this in. The overwhelming report I'm getting back from my patients that I have put on the BPC 157 is one of repair of joint pain and joint issues, tendon pain, tendon issues. I'm seeing that in my practice. So yeah, I think it could help with that, and it may give you some benefit that way too, okay? Let's see. And as to whether it actually specifically rebuilds the cartilage, the literature, if you look at it, there's claims it can. I would say give it a try and see, give it a 2 to 3 month try, see if you get some difference with it, okay? That would be what if you were a patient of mine coming in, that's what I would recommend to you, okay? All right, and then the second part of your question here is about lumbrokinase. So everybody, lumbrokinase is a group of enzymes that are made from the skin of earthworms. This is such a crazy illness, the things that we wind up having to use to get people better. But yes, we're using earthworms. to help with this. All right. So lumbrokinase, these enzymes, is useful at breaking down the blood clotting protein called fibrin. And there is some evidence that says that in Bartonella and in Babesia infections, that one of the things that can sometimes make it harder to treat these germs is that they form what are known as fibrin nest with the fibrin blood clotting protein in your blood. And so think of the germs kind of weaving themselves in and out of fibrin strands, okay? And these fibrin strands basically can block out antibiotics, block out your immune system, right? All right. So that's the theory. And so again, those are some compelling evidence about that presented at the ILADS meeting in October as well too. So because of that, I've started adding in lumbrokinase that breaks down fibrin and potentially breaks down these fibrin nests as well too. And the overwhelming result I'm seeing right now is again, I started using it in October. So 3 months, 4 months now of working with it. Everyone gets some degree of Herxheimer reactions, or almost everyone. I'm seeing people get significant Herx reactions on it. And so I'm now, instead of starting people at 1 twice a day, I'm having people start at 1 pill 1 time a day. And as the Herx goes away, then I have them do 1 pill twice a day. So the Herx does suggest some killing is going on. And because we're now at about, October, November, December, January, 4 months in, I would say, my sense is from the people that I put on it, they all generally get Herxes. And the majority of people that I have put on it, I am seeing improvement in their Bartonella symptoms as well, too. Okay. All right. So I'm reporting to you on about 4 months of evidence and some 2 to 3 months of evidence that I have. But overwhelming, anyone in my practice that seems to have been stuck with Bartonella and Babesia because of this evidence about fibrin nest, I am putting them on lumbrokinase these days. Okay. All right. So in terms of lumbrokinase, where do you get this? Well, or what do we have in the way of lumbrokinase? So there's 2 general product lines. And actually, I'm going to show you both of those here in a minute. I forgot to get my computer set up to do it. So hold on here just a minute. All right, let me go back here. All right, so I'm going to do a quick screen share and show you the 2 major products and describe something that's a little different between both of them, okay? So let's see, screen share. There we go. Okay, so this is my supplement store, Marty Ross MD Supplements. Anyone can purchase here. This is the site for my patients, but anyone can use this site, okay? So the 2 major companies that make lumbrokinase, one is a company called Allergy Research. Another one is Candida RNA. Okay, Allergy Research makes this product here. It's called lumbrokinase, obviously. And then Candida RNA makes the Beluki product. Okay, all right. Now, the Beluki product comes in a bottle of 60 and 20. The strength of the Beluki is, I think 20, it's 20 milligrams in each of the pills, okay, versus the lumbrokinase that is made by Allergy Research. The strength is, a pill is 16 milligrams. I know this looks like 32 milligrams here, but it's a serving size of 2 capsules, okay? All right, so what I am finding, though, is that the Allergy Research product at 16 milligrams a capsule is as strong and as effective as the 20 milligram strength in the Beluki. And the reason I'm pointing that out to you is the price point's a little bit different, okay? 60 pills for the Candida RNA is $92.86, and Allergy Research allows us to sell whatever at a lower price, I should say. But I can't sell these lower than they allow. Allergy Research allows discounting. So I'm able to just get that down to $81.97 for 60 pills, okay? All right, so keep that in mind as you're thinking about doing this, okay? And then one other point that I want to bring up here is not all enzymes are effective at breaking up fibrin. So I had a patient today that I saw that had decided, instead of using the lumbrokinase and paying the price for that, to use something called serapeptase. Serrapeptase is not an effective fibrin breaker. Okay, so don't do that. Another enzyme out there that is a fibrin breaker would be nattokinase, but nattokinase is not as nearly as effective. It's not as potent as lumbrokinase is. Okay, all right. So anyhow, I hope that gives you some useful information. Thanks for our question, Megan. Next question is from Dave. Let's see here. Hello, Dave. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Do you recommend getting the COVID booster? There are some Lyme doctors that are against the booster since the Omicron variant is a different beast. If so, since many Lyme patients are immunocompromised, do you recommend getting the booster 28 days after the second shot or wait 5 months as recommended for the general population? As always, thank you for these webinars. All right, so let me just first of all say, yes, I do recommend getting the booster. I think that there's compelling evidence to show that it actually does prevent having a bad outcome from Omicron. And although most people seem to be tolerating the Omicron, it's not causing majority of people to be hospitalized or to die. It still is having devastating effects because there are people dying from it, and there are people that are winding up in the hospital from it, okay? And the booster does give a benefit to prevent that from happening. So yes, I am recommending it, okay? Now, in terms of this term immunocompromised, okay, let's look at that. So the majority of people with Lyme have let me rephrase that. People with Lyme have a sense that they have immunocompromised, right? And the reason they have that sense is because they got Lyme living in them and nothing seems to work to get rid of it, or it's very difficult to get rid of it, okay? I want to make a point about that. Just because you have difficulty getting rid of Lyme does not mean the average person has greater difficulty getting rid of other infections, all right? So somebody that is immunocompromised because they have Lyme does not mean you're broadly immunocompromised for the majority of people, all right? That's my impression here in the practice. So for instance, when I see people with Lyme get flu, they handle it no different than anyone else that doesn't have Lyme. When I see people that get COVID, I don't see that they're having with Lyme. I don't see that the average person with Lyme with COVID has any harder time getting over it than the person that doesn't have Lyme. Okay. So I'm not of the school that because you have Lyme, you're immunocompromised against everything. I disagree with that. Okay. Now, that's not to say that some people with Lyme don't have immunocompromised against anything. So those would be people that, for instance, when you test their IVI or their IG immunoglobulin levels, we find they're really low. All right. They're compromised against everything. Okay. If you have somebody that has Lyme and has diabetes, they're immunocompromised against a lot of things. All right. So people with Lyme that have a traditional immunocompromised condition that would be diagnosed by an immunologist as being immunocompromised, or they're on organ transplant drugs, all right, or they're on high dose steroids for some other reason, all right, those people are immunocompromised in a broad sense. But just having Lyme does not mean you are immunocompromised against all infections, okay? And in fact, the average person with Lyme is not immunocompromised that way, all right? So you may ask the question, well, why can't I get rid of Lyme easily then? Well, it's because Lyme has a bunch of things that it does to evade the immune system. Lyme releases chemicals that does suppress the immune system against Lyme, but not necessarily against everything, okay? So I strongly disagree with the idea that everyone with Lyme is broadly immunocompromised. They're not. They may have difficulty getting over Lyme, but probably they can deal with infections, the average infection, the way that anyone in the world deals with an average infection, unless they are on immune suppression drugs for some reason, or they have another truly diagnosable immune suppression illness like antibody deficiency, for instance. Okay? All right. So having said that, the average person with Lyme should probably wait to get their boosters until 5 months after they get their second shot. Okay? All right. All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for that question. Good question, and good luck to you. Hello, Rich. Let's see. These webinars are amazing. Thank you, Rich. Let's see. Thanks for doing them. In a previous webinar, you mentioned taking BPC 157 made by integrated peptides for various benefits. Do you recommend taking this on an empty stomach or with food? Do you know of any side effects of taking BPC 157, such as Herc-like reactions? In the past, I believe you mentioned that you could take up to 6 of the integrated peptides BPC 157 capsules per day. Would taking 6 per day give you significantly more benefit than taking 1 or 2 a day? I have heard that some people will cycle BPC 157. Is this a good idea? All right. So I'm not sure why people are cycling BPC 157. I'm not aware that it's a good idea or not a good idea. Okay, I'll put it that way. I see a rare person that has some flare in their Lyme symptoms as we add in BPC 157. And so for that reason, I'm not putting, I start everyone at 1 twice a day, even though I know that an occasional person will have some flare in their Lyme symptoms afterwards. And I think that may be because the immune system starts working better and they get more germ killing, okay? I start people at 1 twice a day, and then I reassess at 1 and 2 months as to whether I'm going to increase. If I start somebody at 1 twice a day and they get good benefits after a month, I don't go up on it. If I start somebody at 1 twice a day, we don't see any benefit, or they're not having good benefits, I might go up to 2 twice a day and then rapidly even go up to 3 twice a day. I wouldn't go over 6 a day. I don't know that that's a good idea. Okay. So yeah. I hope that gives you some information about that. All right. And in terms of whether to take it with or without food, I don't think it matters, to be quite honest with you. Let's go look at that together, though, here. I do a quick screen share. All right. So BPC 157. So the company that makes these peptides is called Integrated Peptides. And right now they're making 4 that are available. There's another one called KPV, which should be coming up soon, but these are the ones we carry right now. So I've got body promoting compound, can't wait, cerebroprep, which can help with thinking, and TB4 frag, which is useful at supporting the immune system as well too, okay? But here's the body protection compound, BPC 157. And let's see what they say on the bottle. You know, they're not saying with or without food here, and that's been what my sense has been about it too. I've been using it with or without food with my patients, but I thought I'd better double check to see what's said on the bottle. Okay. All right. Thanks for the question, Rich. Good luck to you. Hello, SK. What role, if any, does copper deficiency play in tick-borne infections, and how can it be remedied? I recently heard about the root cause protocol by Morley Robbins. Are you familiar with it? Any comments? I'm not familiar with it, and generally I haven't seen copper deficiency be an issue. I'll have to familiarize myself with this protocol. If you're asking me about it, I'm sure I'm eventually going to get asked by other people about it. Actually, let me take a look. I'm going to take a chance to write this down. So the root cause protocol. All right. So I can't really comment more than that. I'm not familiar with it. All right. All right. Thanks, SK. Let's see. Hello, SK again. Let's see. Roll. What? Oh, you already asked that. I think it showed up twice here. Let me get rid of it. Hello, Lynn. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. My Lyme and Bartonella symptoms have been in remission for over a year. I recently had a shoulder injury related to vaccine administration after a flu shot and developed widespread muscle pain shortly after. There is some thinking that when a vaccine is mistakenly deposited into tendon rather than muscle, it ends up trapped there because the area isn't vascularized and it becomes a foreign body that the immune system overreacts to. What blood tests would you run for inflammation, autoimmune reactivity, and widespread muscle pain? Also, can you make a product recommendation for an infrared mat or other home device to treat the pain and or speed the dissipation of the vaccine and the tendon? There's a lot online, but like supplements, it's hard to separate the wheat from chaff. So I will be honest with you. I don't know. This is an area that I'm not that familiar with. I mean, if I had a patient that developed it, I would be into the literature and reading and studying it. But I don't know. I don't know how to respond to what's the best test to look at, nor in this situation, nor do I know how to respond to what's going to be the best way to treat it. So I'm sorry, I'm not a good resource for you on that one. Good luck to you, Lynn. Hi, Jim. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. With patients you feel have fully recovered from chronic Lyme and co-infections, are there any supplements or herbs you think they should continue taking to help prevent remission? It's a good question. So, and it's a discussion I wind up having with each patient when we decide to stop treating. Okay. So if I've got somebody that I've treated and they get 100% well, and they had acute Lyme. So like they got their tick bite. We started treating them within a few months. They had a good outcome and everything is better. I generally would only recommend one thing at the end of treatment, and that is that they stay on probiotics for at least 6 months to a year. And that is to make sure that their intestines, from having been on antibiotics, and they can even be herbal antibiotics, that they don't develop a problem with yeast overgrowth. Okay. So that's what I would recommend there. Okay. Now, if I've got somebody that has, we start treating and they've had Lyme for a year or more, I will have and they get 100% well, I will have a conversation with them at the end of treatment as to options. Okay. One option is to be on probiotics. All right. And don't do anything else. And wait and see, and see if we can their immune system is turned on enough to keep things in remission. Okay. Now, if those people go on and relapse, then after we get them well again, I then would definitely want to have them on something to prevent remission. And what I usually like doing is more herbal for that. And so I would have them take for Lyme. I would have them take a combination of cat's claw tincture and otoba bark tincture. Normally, when I'm using those to treat full-on Lyme, I will have them do 30 drops twice a day. In a situation like this, I probably would have them do 15 drops twice a day. So more of a lower dose, kind of to be constantly policing the environment to keep the Lyme germs from popping up. Okay. The other thing I might do is to help tune up and turn on their immune system to better target Lyme and co-infections. And to do that, I would use a transfer factor product called Transfer Factor L+ by Research Nutritionals. And what transfer factors do is they're proteins made by some immune cells. I call those the detective immune cells that see an infection. And once they see an infection, they release these transfer factors. The transfer factors will attach themselves to germs to kind of identify that germ as something that the other immune cells should come in and attack. Those transfer factors also turn on the immune cells that fight the infection to attack that infection as well, too. Okay, so transfer factor L+ has specific transfer factors in it that target Lyme, which is Borrelia, Babesia Bartonella, Anaplasma ehrlichia, cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, Chlamydia pneumoniae, and human herpes virus type 6. So these are infections we sometimes see in people that have chronic problems with Lyme disease, and that is the most targeted transfer factor mix we have. I would do that as one pill twice a day. Okay, now, in a person that the other option, if at the beginning, is for the person that's had it for a year or more. Again, one option is wait and see, and if they relapse, then do a prevention protocol. But I also will tell people if they want to not wait and see, they could start a prevention regimen that would include the cat's claw and the atoba and the transfer factor L+, without waiting and seeing if they're going to get into relapses, okay? And in that situation, I would do the same thing. I would do an atoba and cat's claw, 15 drops twice a day. And again, I would do the transfer factor L+ at 1 pill twice a day on that too, okay? All right. Good luck to you, Jim, and thanks for that question. Hello, Dave. Let's see here. In a previous webinar, you mentioned that if you are taking a lot of antimicrobial herbs to treat Lyme, it might be a good idea to take multibiome from research nutritionalists as a probiotic. Do you also recommend taking some type of prebiotic? Also, are there any other digestive supplements that you would recommend? So I was talking specifically about herbal antibiotic regimens. Okay, so as many of you know, if we do prescription antibiotics, the problem is they can knock down good bacteria in the intestines. That chance of that happening on herbal antibiotics is actually a lot smaller, but it's not absent, okay? So if you want to do things to promote your bacteria health in the intestines on herbal antibiotics, I like the multibiome. The reason I like it is it's made up both of human strains and it's made up of what are known as spore forming or soil strains, okay? Those spore former soil strains do a good job of getting through the acid of the stomach. And once they get into the intestines, they don't necessarily repopulate the intestines themselves, but they help the existing bacteria that is there to stay there and to work more effectively. They also help the bacteria you're taking, the other part of multibiome, which is the human strains, they also help them to get a better foothold in your intestines as well too, all right? Now, other things you can do that support your good bacteria in your intestines is to have a lot of soluble fiber, okay? So for instance, and the reason soluble fiber is the food source for your good bacteria in your intestines, okay? If you feed them well, they're gonna do well, all right? So for instance, a food that is rich in soluble fiber is avocado. Avocados are rich in soluble fiber, all right? There are other foods rich in soluble fiber. I'm not going to go through them right now, but you can Google them. Soluble fiber foods. Just Google that. You'll find foods that are rich in soluble fibers, okay? I like avocado because it's not a carbohydrate, all right? That would also feed your yeast. So I like tons of avocado. Now, if you don't want to do food and focus on soluble fiber food, the other thing you could do is a supplement. And a supplement that is called citrus pectin, is a very good soluble fiber, and it's a very good food source for healthy bacteria too. And I usually recommend doing a scoop of that powder 1 time a day if you don't want to take the time to have lots of foods that are rich in soluble fiber, okay? So let me just do a quick screen share here. All right, so the product I recommend is, here it is, there you go. All right, so this product called Modified Citrus Pectin Powder is made by Allergy Research. I know it does look spendy here, but this carton has 90 doses in it, okay? So this would, if you're doing 1 scoop a day, this is gonna last you 3 months, all right? But this is your soluble fiber source that I would recommend, okay? All right. All right. Thanks, Dave. And no, there aren't any other ones I would recommend if you're on herbal antibiotics, okay? All right. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to say I see a number of people are writing their questions using the chat instead of the question mark function, okay? I'm going to try to move quickly some of these over to the question area. But for those of you that may have missed it when we first started the webinar tonight, I want questions only to be written. When you go down to the chat box, click on that question mark icon and write your question that way, because otherwise it's just getting to be impossible for me to follow both options. Okay. All right. So bear with me here. I'm just moving a few of these over. All right, let me go back over here. Okay, next one's from Vera. Hello, Vera. Let's see. I've had no symptoms of Lyme or Bart after discontinuing herbal and prescription meds a couple of years ago, except that in the last 6 months, I've had 3 migraines. Should I be concerned that she's is a symptom of Lyme or Bart recurrence, or it's a symptom of Lyme or Bart recurrence? What do you recommend to treat or prevent migraines in general? Also, in recent blood work, I had significantly elevated B6, even though I don't take B6 supplements. Can you think of any reason for this? I cannot think of a reason for that elevated B6. Be aware if you have markedly elevated B6, it can lead to neuropathies. Okay, so you may... what I would have to do, I would want to Google food sources of B6 and see what comes up. I don't know them off the top of my head, okay? But you could do that. Google food sources of B6 and see if you happen to be having a lot of those, all right? The other thing is you could have high B6 if you had taken and you say you're not doing it, but if in the past you took a multi that had a lot of B6 in it, that could be a reason for it too, okay? But I would start by looking at the food source issue to see if you're taking something that somehow is rich in vitamin B6, all right? All right, then in terms of migraine prevention, so first of all, you know, when you get a Lyme or a Bartonella relapse, usually it's not just a single symptom that's going to come back. It's usually going to start being most of the symptoms you used to have that come back, okay? So, I would want to ask you a lot of questions, Vera, but from just what you wrote here, I'm doubtful that this is a relapse. But again, to be clear about that, I would want to ask you a lot more. But typically people will have start showing up with other symptoms that were related to their Lyme or Bartonella at one time, okay? Now, in terms of migraine prevention, there's 2 things I like to do. Number 1, magnesium. Anybody that has a headache problem of any kind, whether it's tension headaches or whether it's migraine headaches, the fundamental thing I like to do with everyone with a headache is get on magnesium. Most of us are magnesium deficient, and and that's because our soils are so depleted of magnesium, we just don't get it in our food adequately anymore. And so start with either a magnesium citrate, a magnesium malate, or a combination of magnesium citrate or malate. Even a magnesium glycinate would be fine, any of those. And I would start with anywhere from 400 to 600 milligrams at bedtime. When you take, the reason I have people take it at bedtime is makes you sleepy, okay? So it can help with your sleep. Be aware if you're taking too much magnesium for what your body can handle, you're going to get diarrhea because magnesium attracts water into the intestines and you'll get mushy stools, right? So if you happen to get watery diarrhea, then back down on the dose that you're taking, all right? So number 1, get on magnesium. Number 2, I like the herb butterbur to help prevent migraines. And the other herb you could use is feverfew, but I like butterbur. Feverfew doesn't do it as well as what butterbur does, okay? Butterbur has been shown in head-to-head studies looking at its effectiveness versus various prescription options of preventing migraines to be equal or better, all right? So butterbur, B-U-T-T-E-R, and then burr, B-U-R, I believe there's only one R there. I'll show you here in a minute, is often sold as a product called Pettidolax. And that's a brand of it that some companies use in their butterbur product. Anyhow, butterbur, you want to dose at 50 milligrams 3 times a day, okay? All right. So let me show you that product here. And it does a nice job. I've been very impressed working with my patients as well too, okay? All right. So let me do a quick screen share here. Okay, so let's see here. Butter. right. So this is the integrated products called Pettidolax. This is what I'm currently carrying. We've had good success with this product. And it's got 50 milligrams of the butterbur in it, basically. And butterbur is all one word. So it's BUTTERBUR. Okay. Now, I'm probably over the next month or two going to be changing over to a Karuna product that has butterbur in it. And their butterbur product comes with the magnesium in it as well, too. But I'm looking at doing now. But anyway, this is what I've currently been using here and having good results with it, okay? All right. Vera, thank you for that question. Good luck to you. Hello, Joyce. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I am in the chronic stage of Lyme Bart, 20 plus years, on cat's claw, atobabark, Hutania sidicuta, about 2 years now, and recently added oregano, extremely harsh on the stomach, exclamation point. After a trip from Arizona to Connecticut late November, my symptoms have come back with a vengeance. Random numbness in legs, feet, across face, chills, low-grade fever, on the verge of getting sick, exhausted, feel like crap, intense itch on shins of both legs. Question is it possible the Epstein-Barr virus can be at the bottom of this? Is there any way to attack this virus? I follow your modified paleo diet and live a healthy lifestyle. Please speak to how a high-fat meat affects Lyme, as I am considering this due to extreme muscle wasting. This disease has taken away the better part of my life. I don't want to lose hope. Thank you. All right. Joyce, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that things have declined for you. And before you look at treating for Epstein-Barr, I would suggest another thing to consider, okay? So in my experience in treating chronic Lyme disease, about 80 to 90% of the time that I see somebody that goes through a massive decline, it winds up being intestinal yeast overgrowth. All right, now what the heck does intestinal yeast have to do with all this? Well, let's talk about that, all right? So because you probably have been on prescription antibiotics, I would bet, and I now know you're on herbal antibiotics, you are at a setup to get too many yeast living in your intestines, okay? You just are, all right? So when you get too many yeast living in your intestines, that triggers a few things to happen. Number one, those yeast manufacture toxins that get absorbed, and those toxins get absorbed into your bloodstream, and they're neurotoxins, okay? So they can bring a lot of the neurologic symptoms. Those toxins also get in and can interact with your skin and lead to worsening rashes, pimples, and acne, okay? So one thing to consider is if you're doing worse and you suddenly got a bunch of pimples and acne, or your eczema got worse, your rosacea got worse, think yeast, okay? Think yeast in your intestines, okay? All right, that's one consideration of it, okay? All right. The other symptoms that you would look at. Oh, so why do yeast cause the decline? Well, they release the toxins, number one. But secondly, the immune system sees them being active and partying down there, and the immune system decides to try to stop it. And the white blood cells down that line the intestinal tract start manufacturing cytokines. And those cytokines, as many of you know from being on my webinars, cytokines are the big culprit for most Lyme disease symptoms, okay? So what are cytokines? And many of you have heard this before, but I'm going to do my cytokine thing here, okay? So cytokines are chemicals made by white blood cells that are designed to actually recruit white blood cells to where an infection is, turn on those white blood cells, and help more white blood cells be made. Okay, so that's the good side to cytokines, all right? However, in situations where the immune system has a hard time getting rid of the problem, like in Lyme, or like in mold toxin illness, or like in intestinal yeast, the immune system will manufacture too many cytokines. It keeps trying harder and harder, and eventually it turns on and makes too many cytokines, all right? Too many cytokines give you fatigue, brain fog, make you hurt all over, interfere with your sleep, disturb how your hormonal systems work. I mean, I can go down the list of what we call Lyme symptoms and Lyme problems, and they're all cytokine related, okay? All right, so now, if you get too many yeast in your intestines and they're triggering cytokine excess and they're releasing toxins, guess what it can look like? it can look like a completely reactivated Lyme and Bartonella. All right. So first up, I would take choices to consider, could it be too many yeast? And there's, I'll show you an article that you can look at that will help you do that. But basically, I would look at some questions. And so some of those questions are, have you had big decline? And the answer here is yes. All right. Number 2, have you had any changes to your skin with more rashes or pimples and acne? Number 3, do you have sugar cravings? Number 4, if you happen to have something that has a lot of sugar in it, do you feel a heck of a lot worse? Okay. And then I would also look at, are you having any vaginal itching, vaginal discharge? And sometimes when you get yeast, you also get it in your food pipe, which can result in difficulty swallowing. So have you had any increase in difficulty swallowing? All right. Those are questions that I would consider. And if you do, then I would start doing things to treat yeast. Okay. All right. In terms of Epstein-Barr, boy, I don't think reactivated Epstein-Barr would give you this kind of a problem. I could see reactivated Epstein-Barr giving you fatigue, but these kinds of things, I don't, this looks like yeast, or it looks like your treatments are no longer working for the Lyme and for the Bartonella, okay, unfortunately. So yeah, that's where I would start with it. Let me see what other part of your question. Let's see. Is there any way, let's see, I follow your modified paleo diet and live a healthy lifestyle. Please speak to how a high-fat meat affects Lyme, as I'm considering this due to extreme muscle wasting. So the paleo type diet that I recommend is a diet called the Mito Food Plan. And it's a diet that was put together by a group called the Institute for Functional Medicine, okay? So high protein, high quality fat, and using high quality vegetables and fruits, you can still have some fruits on this, are shown to actually improve the functioning of your cell's energy factory called mitochondria, okay? And one of the primary reasons that I wind up recommending this diet is to improve mitochondrial function. All right, because most people with chronic Lyme have some degree of mitochondria dysfunction, meaning the cell energy factories are not working correctly, which leaves you fatigued, makes it so your immune systems don't work right, makes it so your brain doesn't work right, etc. All right, and that diet supports it. The other reason I recommend this high-quality paleo plant-based diet, paleo type diet, is that it tends to not use a lot of grains, beans, and legumes. And so therefore, you tend not to have as many problems getting yeast, okay? So let me show you where you can find that, and also where you can find the my yeast recommendations. I'll do a quick screen share here. Oops, let me go over here. All right, so this is my Lyme disease information site, Treat Lyme by Marty Ross MD. Take a look at my yeast section. And here I walk through how do you determine if it's too many yeast. And I just did that with you, but you can read it here as well too. And if you're looking for prescription or herbal options to treat yeast, you can find them in this article here called Kills Yeast, a Brief Guide. Okay, all right. And then, let's see, the second part of your question. Hold on here a minute. I got to go back. I just lost my train of thought. Bear with me. So you said... Oh, the diet. I want to show you the diet. Okay, so in terms of the diet, take a look in my nutrition section here. And then this Mito Food Plan that I work with is, I have it here in this article called The Best Brain Inflammation, Pain, Energy, and Detox Diet Ever. I got a little carried away naming that. But anyhow, this is basically the Mito Food Plan. I walk you through how to do it. There's videos here that tell you how to build it. And there's links in here to all kinds of material that have been put out by the Institute for Functional Medicine about how to use this food plan. Okay. All right. So take a look at that there. Okay. All right. Good luck, Joyce. Thank you for that question. Hello, Shelley. Let's see. I live in Vancouver, BC, and my symptoms started after mice came into my home. once a month for the past 4 months, I wake with a fever as high as 102.5 and a rash. I can hardly walk for the first hour. Fever subsides shortly after waking. I feel awful for 5 to 7 days. Gastrointestinal discomfort, muscle aches, nerve pain, or rashes, headache, chills. The first few times it happened, fever came and went for a few days. Last time, the whole thing only lasted 1 day. The rash spreads slightly every time it occurs. I had 2 blood tests. The doctor said it's not shingles and doesn't know what it is. If it is a tick-borne infection, what test would detect it? Does this need treatment, or will it go away on its own? Okay, so Shelley, rodents carry ticks. Okay, I just want you to know that. In fact, they can be vectors for carrying ticks around as much as deer can be, okay? One thing that ticks can spread is something called tick-borne relapsing fever. Right, you heard that name, relapsing fever, which is the illness shows up as fevers that come and cycle on a regular basis, okay? So I would suggest, based on your story, that you get tested for tick-borne relapsing fever, okay? All right, now, you could do that through IGeneX. IGeneX is probably the best tick-borne testing lab we have. You would have to have them send you a test kit, and you would have to see if you can convince your doctors to sign the order form and draw the blood. All right, that's what I'd recommend. And let me show you what I would order there. So let's do this here real quick. I'm going to do a screen share again. All right, so go to IGeneX. At IGeneX.com. So this is IGeneX, okay? You can actually order a test kit yourself by clicking on this link here, so you could bring it to your doctor, okay? All right, and then there is an order form somewhere that I want to show you. We'll do it differently. I'm going to find the order form rather than hunting around their site. I'm going to do it this way. Let's see, IGeneX order form. All right, so this is the IGeneX order form. And the test you want to look at is, let's see. I would not waste your money doing this tick-borne relapsing fever panel. What you actually need is the tick-borne relapsing fever, IgM and IgG. And I'm trying to find where that is here. Let's see here. Here. All right. You want to do in this page 2 of the order form, you want to do test 345 and test 355, which is the tick-borne relapsing fever immunoblot for IgM antibodies and IgG antibodies, okay? All right. The best lab at detecting tick-borne relapsing fever is IGeneX. I would spend the resources to get this test done, all right? All right. There you go. All right. Anyhow, Shelley, I hope that gives you some information there, okay? All right. Good luck to you. Hello, Dave. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I just wanted to thank you for the great and correct information you provide us via these webinars. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. My Lyme doctor solely relies on a C4A blood test to determine mold toxicity. However, as you have stated numerous times, a urine test from real time is the best way. I did just that using my GP since my Lyme doctor wouldn't do it. Although my C4A levels were very low and normal, my real-time results came back highly positive for a few mycotoxins. If it wasn't for your info in these webinars, I wouldn't have never tested. I'm now on the right path. Thank you. Good. So, Dave, I'm glad. Again, I do these webinars to help people. So I always love getting these stories back from people that actually get benefit out of it too. That's great. So I just want to make a comment about what Dave is saying. So basically, there's a group of doctors when it comes to mold toxin illness that rely on whether you have signs of inflammation in your body based on inflammation blood testing. So C4A is a way of looking at inflammation. Something called VEGF is a way of looking at inflammation. Something called TGF-beta1 is a way of looking at inflammation. And these doctors were all trained by a physician named Richie Shoemaker, who is the original guy that came up with the idea that mold toxins can get trapped in some people. And Richie Shoemaker believes that the only way to really figure out if you have it is to do a test called an HLA-DR test to see if you have genetic profile to have this problem, and then also do tests for inflammation markers like a C4A. And if those are elevated, that means you have mold toxin illness. Well, the problem with Shoemaker's protocol is Shoemaker denies the existence of chronic Lyme disease. And guess what also can give you, sometimes can cause those elevated inflammatory markers, all right? So whenever you get elevated inflammatory markers, it's not necessarily from tick-borne illness. From a mold. It could be tick-borne illness, all right? Secondly, what I have found, though, is that those inflammatory markers aren't always accurate at finding mold toxin illness, all right? And so I like, and many of us that treat Lyme actually prefer looking to see, do you actually have the mold toxins in you? Not whether you have inflammation from mold toxins, but do you actually have mold toxins in you, all right? And the way to do that is to do a urine test, because your kidneys will release mold toxins. They're not great at removing the whole pool of mold toxins that gets trapped in you, but they can release some of them. And if you're peeing them in your urine, that means you got a lot trapped inside you, okay? All right. And the lab I like using for that, I think from an accuracy standpoint, is the real-time labs in Texas. So Dave, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And good luck to you. Hello, Lynn. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. My Lyme and Bartonella symptoms. Oh, I think we've answered that already. Let me pull that away. We answered that one earlier too. Hello, Valerie. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Ross. I have chronic Lyme, high gadolinium levels, and active chlamydia pneumoniae. My upper back became very unstable with severe muscle pain, rashes, and the spine, ribs, and shoulder joints sliding easily out of place. These are very odd. These are very odd, easily heard crack. Oh, there are. I should put my glasses on here. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. There are very odd, easily heard cracking, popping sounds when I work my shoulders around or swing my arms. It feels to me like the sounds are from the muscles. Treatments have not helped much with this. The local neurologist says it must be my joints, as muscles don't do that. But the joints move easily without pain or arthritis. Chiropractors, massage therapists agree that it is muscles making the noise and say it feels like a ratchet inside each muscle. What is happening to cause this continuous sound, like fireworks or a bowl of Rice Krispies with milk? Might it be Lyme related? Any suggested treatment? Thank you, Val. So, Val, I'm not sure what the mechanism is behind this. I know it's very common, for instance, for people with Lyme to have a lot of cracking and popping sounds that's coming from the neck joints. That's a very common thing. I haven't seen what you're describing here, though, but I would think it's part of Lyme. As I'm afraid I don't have a good response for you on that one. Yeah. All right. Good luck to you, Valerie. Hello, Mary. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross, and thank you for taking our question. You're welcome. How effective is artemisinin for the treatment of Babesia alone without other treatments? If it is, how bad are the Herxheimer reactions? Thanks. All right. So, Mary, I have found, it does work sometimes, but let's see, what percent would I say? The problem, let me make a general comment. So the problem is we have been starting to see increased levels of artemisinin resistance, basically, especially out on the East Coast. Although I still find artemisinin can be helpful for people to get their Babesia out here. I'm not so sure on the West Coast where I am, the West Coast U.S., I'm not sure how effective it is in Middle America, Babesia, okay? All right. I think what works better for it as a single agent is actually Cryptolepis. That I will use on solo on my patients. A Cryptolepis dosing would be 5 milliliters 3 times a day. But if you want to give the artemisinin a try, go ahead. The way that I wind up dosing it is to take it at very high doses for the first 3 days out of each 14. So 3 days on, 11 days off. The reason I pulse it like that is that artemisinin promotes the liver to develop some enzymes that can deactivate it. And so you want to use it for a short period of time, and then eventually the liver will stop being promoted to destroy artemisinin and it can go back on it again. This is a way that the Chinese have been using it for a malaria treatment. They like to do a high pulse dose for 3 days and then not take it for 11 days. And so I started incorporating that into my treatments as well too, okay? The dosing that I like using is to start at about 200 milligrams to 300 milligrams 3 times a day in an adult on the days you take it, and eventually try to work up to 500 milligrams 3 times a day, 3 days out of every 14 on the days you take it. Okay, that's what I like to do. When you use it, you may see a worsening of Babesia symptoms. So air hunger, sweats, fatigue, headaches, racing, skipping of the heart, dizziness on standing. Those are all Babesia symptoms. Night sweats. They may get better beginning worse, I should say, beginning on the 2nd day that you take it through the 5th day, day 5 being, day 1 is the first day you take it, day 2 you take it, day 3 you take it, day 4 you're not on it, day 5 you're not on it. But even day 4 and day 5, you may still have worsening symptoms up through those, okay? Can it be a significant herx? Yeah, it can. If you want to limit the chances of that happening, you would start even lower than what I just said. You might start at 100 milligrams 3 times a day, for instance. And after 2 weeks, if that goes well, then go up to 200 milligrams 3 times a day. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Mary. Hello, Lynn. Let's see. Oh, we got it. I've already answered that. So, Lynn, the reason your questions keep disappearing is that you send them to me and then they don't remain. They remain on my screen, but not on yours. Okay. So just want you to know that. Hello, Pakia. Let's see. I just bought your liposomal oregano clove. I think you mean the liposomal cinnamon clove, cinnamon clove and oregano essentials, and have been taking Atoba and Cryptolepis tincture for several months. Is this herb combination sufficient? Should I add clarithromycin? My history has been infected for 7 months and intolerable reaction to toxin and minocycline, and found that Cryptolepis alone seems to have kept symptoms under control. Now I look for a stronger protocol towards remission. I do follow your basic support protocol, plus injecting BPC and other peptides. Peptides do help, but I think no practitioner have a peptides for full remission protocol yet. We need more data. I would agree. I think we need more data. And I don't think peptides help symptoms. They help tissue repair. They help immune system work better, but they're not killing germs, okay? Well, they may. There may be some data they do, but I'm not clear about that as to whether they're effective germ killers or not, all right? So if we look at this protocol, the Atoba can kill Lyme and can kill both a spirochete, cyst Lyme, and Atoba can help break up biofilms that cover the germ, okay? Cryptolepis, according to research that got published but in 2021, that came to us out of Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Ying Zhang and his lab there. Cryptolepis is shown to treat growing and persister forms of Lyme. Okay, so that can be helpful. And then Ying Zhang's lab also has shown that liposomal cinnamon clove oregano is useful at treating persisters as well as treating growing and active Lyme as well too. All right. So this is a good regimen. And it may be strong enough. If you wanted to make it stronger, I would probably add cat's claw in here, actually. Cat's claw, according to data that was published out of Johns Hopkins earlier this year, cat's claw can treat persister Lyme, and cat's claw can also treat growing forms of Lyme, okay? And from research from 10 years ago, cat's claw in combination with Otoba does a magnificent kill of spirochete growing Lyme and a magnificent kill of cyst Lyme. And those two together wipe out 100% of biofilm slime layers that protect the germ. All right. So if you want to make this stronger herbally, I would add in cat's claw, continue the Otoba, continue the crypto, and do the liposomal cinnamon clove oregano. All right. As to whether you should add clarithromycin, I don't know that you really get any added advantage at adding that in, to be quite honest with you. If you do add it in, realize you've got a stronger potential of getting intestinal yeast problems from happening with it as well, too. All right. Now, I'm not your doctor. All right. Obviously, it would be better if you talk this over directly with your physician, who can ask all kinds of questions about your symptoms. So I'm just answering this in a general sense. But for you specifically, you may want to talk to your physician about this as well, too. Okay? All right. Good luck to you. Let's see. Oh, we already did that one. That one. All right. Hello, Thomas. Let's see. Why do you prefer naturals over prescription for antivirals? And what are some of the things you suggest both as a primary or secondary option? Thank you. All right. So the problem is with prescription antivirals is they're only designed to target certain infections. So for instance, the antivirals that fight HIV, all right? And the other prescription antivirals that we have right now are things like a Valtrex or something like acyclovir. Those all are designed to treat herpes simplex virus, meaning cold sores and treating genital herpes. They are not designed to treat Epstein-Barr virus, human herpes virus type 6, cytomegalovirus, which are the chronic viruses that get activated when you have Lyme sometimes, okay? So even though some doctors use them, there's no science that says they kill those infections. They're not designed to kill those infections, okay? And then the newest antivirals we have, Plavix, I believe that's the name of it, is antiviral against COVID, all right? That doesn't mean it's going to work against chronic activated viruses that you get in Lyme disease, all right? So the reason I don't use those prescriptions is they're not designed to target these kinds of infections. That's why. All right, so why do I use herbs? Because herbs can kill a big variety of infections, all right? So my herbal antiviral protocol is olive leaf extract as the primary. I like starting at 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Each week, I have a person increase the dose so that the second week, they're taking 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day. And by the third week, 1,500 milligrams 3 times a day. Now, if you're herxing, don't increase it, okay? But if you're not herxing, increase it. And if you are herxing, once that herx goes away, increase it, okay? All right. So that's your germ killer, all right? Now, as an alternative, if you're a person that doesn't handle the olive leaf extract well, or you don't tolerate it for some reason, look at using monolaurin. And monolaurin, I would use the same way, 500 milligrams 3 times a day for 1 week, then go to 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day for another week, and then go up to 1,500 milligrams 3 times a day, all right? So that's your killer, okay? Second thing you want to do to get rid of viruses is promote your immune system helping. Because, these viruses, Epstein-Barr and HHV6 and cytomegalovirus, these chronic viruses that may get reactivated in Lyme, were basically all held under control by your immune system before you got Lyme, all right? these are, so as many of you know, I'm not a big proponent of treating chronic viruses because basically we find evidence of these chronic viruses like elevated antibodies even in healthy people, right? So healthy people cohabitate with these viruses. And my feeling is if you can get the Lyme under control, the immune system will put these back under control too. So that's why I don't go after them that commonly. But one way to put them back under control is turn the immune system on to fight them, okay? So in addition to killing them with either olive leaf or monolaurin, the other thing I would do is start reishi mushrooms, 400 milligrams 3 times a day. Reishi mushrooms actually turn on the cells in your immune system that fight viruses to attack the viruses, all right? And if you want to, and that's a minimum thing I would do. If you want to go one step further at targeting your immune system to fight these viruses, you might also look at doing a transfer factor product by Research Nutritionals, which is called transfer factor plasmic. And transfer factor plasmic has a number of transfer factors in it that target various viruses that can be reactivated, okay? And that would be 1 pill twice a day. Let's go look at that product. I'll show you what viruses it's supposed to target here. All right, so let me go back to my store. All right, so again, Research Nutritionals has a variety of transfer factor products. And if you're ever wondering what do they target, because each transfer factor product targets something different, okay? So transfer factor. So these are all the transfer factor products made by Research Nutritionals. Click on the transfer factor plasmic. And in here, and each of these products, I have a section that says key functions and actions. All right, this is what the science tells us about these products, what they may support doing, okay? And so the transfer factors that are in here are designed to target the following viruses: Epstein-Barr, HHV6, cytomegalovirus, herpes type 1, herpes type 2, hepatitis A, B, and C, parvovirus B19, herpes zoster, and it's like mumps, measles, and rubella, and even human papilloviruses, okay? All right, so the wart viruses, all right? Those are the viruses that transfer factor plasmic can help target and turn your immune system on to support, all right? All right, let's go back here. All right, good luck to you, Thomas. Thanks for the question. Hello, Brandy. Let's see. Who do you refer to when it's out of your wheelhouse, such as Chagas, other than an infectious disease doctor? It all depends on the condition. And I would even have to look up more on Chagas to figure out who I might send it to. So it all depends on what the condition is and possibly where the person is too. So I don't have a specific idea for you there. Okay. Thanks for the question, Brandy. Hello, TJ. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations for people to go to for last resort hard cases? Sometimes I wonder if for some people Lyme disease is just an opportunistic infection for someone who has some other underlying issues. Thank you. You know, basically, there's a number of us that treat tick-borne illnesses that look at the possibility of tick-borne illnesses, but also I'm always considering what else could it be besides tick-borne illnesses. So, you know, you're familiar with who the top tier doctors are in this country addressing these. I do. All right. I don't mean to necessarily say I'm the best, but I do a pretty good job, as many of you know. So I would say I'm in that camp. Horowitz, who is just astronomically too expensive, is in that group. Neil Nathan, although Neil these days targets people with mold possibilities, he still can give a good idea of other possibilities to consider as well too. Eric Gordon down at Gordon Medical in California, Steve Harris down at Frontier Medical down in California. Who else would I consider? I'm just doing this off the top of my head right now. Yeah, I'm just blanking on who else to consider at this point. But there are a variety of us that, this is what we. Oh, I know. Dr. Ann Corson in Philadelphia is another one that I would put in that group as well too. All right. Thanks for the question, TJ. Hello, Sharon. Let's see. Are there any mitochondrial options that are prescription, and are there any mitochondrial options that are not FDA approved in, say, other countries? Trying to figure out what options are when kind of time and CoQ10 and NT factor and NAD, etc., may not be enough. I am not aware of prescription mitochondrial repair treatment options. I'm just not aware of it, okay? The things I like to do to repair mitochondria is rebuild the covering of the mitochondria with phospholipid repair, NT factor, or ATP360 are products I like to use to do that. I also like to have people on glutathione. I also sometimes will use coenzyme Q10, like you mentioned here. NAD is another option as well too. Okay, other things to consider for mitochondrial repair that may be beneficial would be hyperbaric oxygen. Hyperbaric oxygen forces oxygen into the mitochondria to be burned into cell fuel. Okay, and although I'm not a big proponent of hydrogen peroxide or ozone therapies, I think on a limited basis, say maybe 8 treatments or so, both of those can promote mitochondrial function by resulting in better oxygenation of the mitochondria. I do not advocate ozone or hydrogen peroxide as germ killers. In fact, if we look at evidence on hydrogen peroxide, it is not an effective germ killer in a human body. And let me explain why I'm saying that. I know there's a lot of doctors out there, they bought all their equipment and man, they're going to make sure you get your ozone therapy in. But I strongly disagree with my colleagues that are using these as germ killers because the science says it's not. Okay. The science does say it probably helps your mitochondria work better. But so here's what the science says. If you take a test tube full of germs, all right, and you put ozone in it, kills all the germs. That's great. So doctors, they say, aha, it works. I'm going to start getting my 20-pass ozone machine in my office, and I'm going to kill Lyme with ozone. Great. But they failed to look at the other experiment that was done. And this is an experiment that was conducted on the granddaddy of promoting ozone therapy for a whole host of conditions, okay? And what he did in this experiment is he took a test tube full of germs, and he put a very small quantity of blood in that test tube, and then he put the ozone in, and guess what happened? No killing at all, none. All right, and here's why. That blood is full of antioxidants. Even a minuscule amount of blood is full of antioxidants, enough to neutralize the effects of the ozone. All right, so if you remove the oxidative potential of ozone, and that's what's going to happen when it gets into the blood, because your blood is full of antioxidants, it neutralizes the oxidative killing effect of the ozone, and guess what? Nothing happens. All right. So I hear of all these people that are getting their ozone treatments and they feel better. And granted, they will, because it helps the mitochondria do better, right? But at a point, it stops working well for them and they have to come back in, get into treatment and start killing their germs again with something that really does kill germs, okay? All right, that's my commentary. Anyhow, if you want to look at the science and the evidence behind what I just said in terms of mitochondria support and ozone, let me just show you a quick piece on that. All right, so take a look. I've written a whole article on ozone, hydrogen peroxide, UV irradiation, etc. And these are all oxidation therapies. And in here, I review the science about the science showing that these are not effective germ killers, but they do help your mitochondria work better. Okay. All right. Thanks for the question, Sharon, and good luck to you. Hello, Chris. Hi, Marty. Hello. Let's see. A few days after a confirmed COVID exposure, I began experiencing fatigue, migraine-like headaches, head pressure, increased light sensitivity, disequilibrium, along with 3 genuine vertigo spells. I regret not getting a rapid COVID test. 4 weeks later, I had a serum antibody test, which was 0.8 negative, borderline, but still had the disequilibrium, headaches, and light sensitivity. I stumbled across a cytokine suppression supplement in my cabinet. To my surprise, all the symptoms calmed down to where I could function. Do you think it's possible my body battled off COVID, but in doing so generated sufficient inflammation to reflare the Bartonella and vestibular issues I had pre-COVID? Have you had any patients with similar stories? Thanks as always for your medical insights in these informative sessions. Okay, so the antibody testing is not an effective way to see if you have COVID. The ability to measure in your blood, especially if it's early, you may not have measurable antibodies yet. Rapid test can find it if it's there, but may miss it sometimes, especially with Omicron. But if it does come back positive, it means you had it, okay? If you are within 3 months of having had what could have been COVID, you could still get a COVID PCR test done, believe it or not, and it may still be positive even at this point. If you swab your nose, you may still have a positive COVID PCR. So you might want to do that to see. But if it's negative, it doesn't mean you didn't have COVID. I would suspect you had COVID. That's what this looks like to me. And COVID triggers elevated cytokines that can remain there for quite a while, okay? So my sense is probably it didn't reactivate Bartonella or Lyme, but rather it triggered cytokine excess because that's what COVID does, all right? And those cytokines that got increased from having COVID could remain there for even months. So I would work on things to lower cytokines. That's what my approach would be here, okay? All right, but you might want to talk to your physician and see what they think too. But from what you described, if you were one of my patients, I would focus on cytokine control. Rather than focusing on some idea that the Bartonella or Lyme got worse or got reactivated somehow. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Chris. Hello, Robin. Let's see. In your experience, when someone has had air hunger as their first and now their last lingering symptom of Lyme disease or co-infection, had they been able to breathe normal again after treatment? I have had one person that no matter what we did to get their germs under control, and in the end, I do think we got their germs under control, we could not get the air hunger symptom to go away. And I'm not clear what the ongoing cause in that person is of their air hunger. We even brought in a pulmonologist to evaluate and do all kinds of tests to see if there's a reason to explain it. And it is one of those symptoms we just could not get better, even though they got dramatically better all around. So, but in the majority of people, I do see as we get Lyme and Bartonella and Babesia actually under control, their air hunger goes away. All right. So keep in mind, both Bartonella and Babesia can result in air hunger. All right. The way that Bartonella appears to do it is Bartonella can lead to these fiber nest depositing in your fibrin Bartonella nest, depositing on the linings of your blood vessels. And in the real small blood vessels, that can limit blood flow, resulting in less oxygen getting into your tissue, producing that sense of air hunger. Okay. So just keep that in mind. So the other thing, if they're not going well the way, go back and reconsider, did you take care of both Lyme and Bartonella? Babesia and Bartonella. Did you have Babesia? Did it get missed? Did you have Bartonella? Did it get missed? I would make sure you treated the infections that lead to this. But keep in mind, just having air hunger does not mean it's always Bartonella and Babesia. If you have not done so and you are still having lingering air hunger, bring your pulmonologist in, make sure you don't have another type of lung issue leading to the sense of air hunger as well too. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Robin. All right, let's see. Hello, Mosby. Does Babesia, Borrelia, or Bart have any correlation to the new moon or full moon? Full moon makes me very wired and tired, while the new moon makes me exceptionally nearly bedridden fatigue. I have multiple parasites beyond the tick infections. All right. So, Mosby, I would not attribute one of these infections to noon moon and old moon cycling of your symptoms. Other than to say, I am very much aware that there are a group of people that have Lyme and tick-borne infections and co-infections that do cycle with the moon cycle. And I can't explain why other than to acknowledge that, yeah, it happens. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Mosby. Hello, Rob. Let's see. I have a weird one for you, and I realize you might not know, but I'm asking if you have any ideas or other people to try for unusual symptom. I noticed that out of the 60 plus Lyme folks in our local support group, about 7 or 8 of them have glowing green pupils under UV light. And I don't think it's coincidental that they are the ones that claim they have Morgellons. Is there actually other pieces to that puzzle? Oh, and they claim they have Morgellons. They're actually, let's see. And who do you suggest to take a look at it as investigation? This is not subtle. It's as glaringly obvious as a bullseye rash. You know, I don't, I'm not sure why that's showing up that way. And I'm not sure who to have a look into it. I know there is the, what's the name of the group? There's a Morgellons Foundation. Hold on here just a minute. I'm looking here. Yeah. So there's a group called the Charles E. Holman Foundation for Morgellons disease. That's one group to reach out to. There's another group called the Morgellons Research Foundation. Take a look at any of these groups and see. You might want to reach out to them and see if they have some ideas for you as well too. Okay. That's what I would do. I'm not sure where else to have you turn to. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Rob. All right. That's it for me for tonight, everyone. I enjoyed visiting with you. I always enjoy visiting with you. Every now and then I'm a little fatigued at the end of the day, but today was a good day. I get fatigued from patient care sometimes, but today was good, and I enjoyed being here. So tomorrow, take a look at your emails sometime in the morning around 9:30 in the morning. I should have the edited video recording for tonight out with a synopsis of what we talked about, so you can move around the video a little more rapidly and try to find the section you want to listen to again. All right. Again, I do request, and I hope you'll join me in helping my mission to reach people, to help them recover from this illness. Please feel free to forward this, and I request you forward this to as many people as you think will benefit from getting the recording, but also the opportunity to sign up for next week, okay? Because that will also be in tomorrow's email as well, too. So thanks, everyone, for joining me here tonight. I hope you all have good evenings, and I wish you well. Good evening.